All right. Welcome, everybody, to the weekly Probate Master Group coaching call. Malcolm was one of our punctual first here, and he's got a few questions. So let's jump right in. How can we help you today?
Awesome. Well, it's completely unrelated to probate. And if need be, we can, kind of tail it towards the end of the call. But I was kind of hoping you could recanvas your foreclosure conversation framework. You touched on it last week, and I wrote as much of it as I could. Sometimes, you drop those gems, man. So I got to keep asking.
Yeah. So for me, we can pull that mind map up here. I'll find it. But the methodology developed out of my own self-criticism. Like, I would approach people with kind of a selfish approach of I'm going to get that house. And what I realized is almost everyone in foreclosure think that they're not going to get foreclosed on. There's a lot of psychology at play. In my experience, 99% of them want to stay in the home and want to continue living there. And that's what we want for them too. We don't want to kick people out of their houses. But the reality is at some point, the sheriff is going to intervene and they're going to have a rude awakening on that day. And I've seen that happen. People literally just completely lost moving into these crappy little, weekly stay hotels because they just put their head in the sand and they refused to admit what was happening. All that said, I found that approaching them and understanding that they have to come to their own realization in their mind, oh, this is real and it's going to happen. The question of, hey, listen, I noticed that you're probably getting a lot of phone calls. This one's going to be a lot different. And I just have one question for you. Would you like to keep the home? Would you like to stay in your home and keep it, or would you like to sell it and get a fresh start? And then just be absolutely quiet. Do not say a word. And like what they say next, you can immediately start to gather what their emotional state is, what their financial situation is, how far behind or how deep their head is in the sand. And then you start to navigate the conversation, an emotional conversation with a logical track. And let me jump over and grab that mind map so we can take a look at it. And I do this with almost every lead type, but foreclosure is where I learned it. And then later applied it to probate. Back to Zoom. All right. You guys have my screen now?
Yes.
All right. So this is a work in progress. This is just a rough outline, but in my head, this is any and every conversation. So we know there's real estate. Yes. We know there's debt. Yes. So from this branch out is where, so you have your real estate, you have debt, and our payments current, no. So basically this branch represents the foreclosure situation. So the first thing we're trying to find out is there equity? But we don't just want to come out and ask this of these people, right? We need to find a balance between appealing to their sensitive emotional state and getting the logical information we need. That's one of the reasons I hate scripts so much, is because people go out and they fire too early. It's about reading the conversation. Okay, we know you're behind on payments. We saw that in the notice of default. We don't really need to have that conversation, which is an embarrassing conversation and can drive them inward where you're not getting the engagement. So there's some things we know through deduction, like the way that we got the list. So letting them know that that's nothing to be embarrassed about. 9 million other people are in that situation, whatever that might be. And the fact that, like, when I say I'm sure you've had conversations, and I just want to let you know this one's going to be a lot different. So I'm trying to get away from that preconceived reputation they've given me because of everyone else who's muddied the water and tried. I want to let them know this is more of a consultation. So the first thing you're trying to figure out, is there equity? Yes or no? If they're behind on payments, there is equity. Then we just need to figure out how can we get them out before the foreclosure date, right? Like, how far behind are they? What's their target date? How quickly can they find another suitable living situation? If it's less than 30 days, we got to bring cash in and close this thing fast. If we have a short fuse deal, 60 to 90 days, we can probably get them out as a broker. If it's long term, like if they're willing to wait a long time for the solution, but we need to get it in place quickly, this is a great place for creative financing. So we can put a second, like a wrap, we can do sub 2, or we could do a lease option. There's a lot more of these scenarios right now than there was in 2008 through 12 because of the massive amounts of money printing that the Fed has done. A lot of folks do have equity this time, and even before the COVID lockdown, we had higher equity levels than almost any other period because we had the deleveraging in 2008 through 12, and we tightened lending guidelines. So you're going to have this conversation a lot more now than you did in that 8 to 12 period. But the ones who really are stuck they aren't current on payments. There is no equity. And from here, if you have less than 30 days, like this is a short fuse, an absolute real hurry, can we transition it to a rental property and somehow bring the thing current so they could 1 to 6 months? We're going to do a short sale in that scenario. The outcome here too is if you can't do this, it's going to the courthouse usually. And then longer term, the creative financing. So we can do a second, a wrap, a lease option, or a sub two. If you had a more specific question, or if you were just looking to get back to this,
Yeah. So the question was like, okay, so the first part, you nailed that. But I guess the question was, I just kind of wanted to hear the Chad way hear the Chad approach to how you would ask, basically, what you would literally be saying them to lead them down, these questions and decision paths, because I've had wildly varying experiences when speaking with, homeowners that have been going through, foreclosure, and rightfully so.
Do you have one fresh in your head?
So the last one I spoke with, I tried a remix of something I'd heard you say. I told them that, I know that this was, it could be a touchy conversation. I didn't want to rehash something that they'd already heard a lot. And, I was literally looking at I was looking at the mind map and just trying to, just work my way through it. But when I got to the part where I was asking if there was equity, she kind of clammed up on me. She, didn't really want to share.
You willing to role play? All right, let's go. Your scenario, I know nothing about it other than you're in default. Let's some assumptions to set the stage. I don't know if you have equity in your home. I haven't done the research on the asset, but I do know that you have an NOD. So you're at least 3 months behind on payments because that's the list I found you from. That fits the scenario that you're talking about. Okay, ring.
Hello?
Hi, I'm trying to reach Balcom.
Speaking.
My name's Chad Corbett. We don't know each other yet, but I did get your name from, I'm sure you can guess where, because I'm sure you've had this conversation, a similar conversation. I noticed that you do have a notice of default on public record. We were down at the courthouse pulling some data. And I just want to preface this with this is a different type of conversation than you've probably had. We are a social enterprise here in the Roanoke Valley, and we try to reach out to families that are in tough situations because we have a lot of resources and a team of people that was built were specifically to help people save their homes and sometimes move on to the next chapter of life. So have you got just a few minutes to chat?
Yeah, I've got a few minutes.
Okay. I'm guessing you've heard from some other people that were trying to find out how they could get the house and this and that, and probably didn't ask you a lot of questions about yourself. If I have your permission, if you can trust me that I am here trying to help you, and if I can get your permission, I'm going to ask progressively more personal questions because I don't know how to help you until I can really understand your situation. So are you okay trusting me enough that I can ask some kind of sensitive personal questions?
Yeah, for now, yeah.
Okay. And if we get to a point where you feel like, hey, this is none of his damn business, all I ask for is a transparency. Just tell me that.
Okay.
The first things that we try to determine is let me ask you this. Is your goal to stay in your home or would you rather move on to another chapter of
I want to stay here. It's difficult for me to afford the place now. Obviously, I lost my job due to COVID, so I have bills. And
you're facing unemployment. Your unemployment overlay goes away in less than a month, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So the first thing we try to look for in this situation, if you want to stay there and you don't have an income right now, is there somebody in your family or your group of friends that, first of all, would you be willing to ask for financial help from a friend or family? And second, is there a person like that in your life right now?
At the moment, no.
Okay. When do you think you'll be back to work? Do you have work lined up? What line of work are you in? Do you expect this to be short term or long term?
I expect to be out of work. It could be some time. I'm a commercial glazer. I work with glass. I've been putting applications out, but everywhere is pretty tight due to all these shutdowns and lockdowns. Nobody's been able to really get any glass in. Everybody's pretty much hurting. So I've, put an application. I'm not getting any callbacks. They're all saying the same thing.
Sure. Let me ask you this. And let's just look out the next 6 months to start. Are there any other big purchases you need to make? Do you need to replace a family vehicle or do you need to use your credit for anything in the near future?
No, the car is fine for now. They haven't repossessed that.
Okay. And are you making the payments on your vehicles and that's okay?
I'm about a month behind on my car payment.
Okay. And do you have a way to keep those?
Yeah, I'm keeping my car payment current.
Okay. As you can see, we're really worried about your overall situation, but that will bring us back to what is the best thing to do about your living situation. So I'll check in with you from time to time based on the kind of questions I've asked so far.
Yeah.
Okay, so where we are, we try to look at options. So for you to stay in the home, we've got to find a way to bring the payments current, because at this point in the next 30 to 45 days, the sheriff could be knocking on your door. Have you talked about that with your family? Have you really felt that and thought about what logistically what happens when that happens?
Honestly, it's been just so stressful. I've just hid under the cover, hoping it would go away.
So the reason I ask this is, unfortunately, I guess fortunately, because we have an opportunity to have this conversation. We talk to a lot of folks. We try to talk to everybody who's in your situation, because we know there's almost always a solution that we can find through years of experience and tons of great relationships with other professionals here. We can find a way to help you. We can navigate this with you. But the most common thing I see is people just don't do anything. And that inaction usually results in a much more painful end result. And that's the sheriff knocking on the door with a piece of paper in his hand and family members crying in a panic to figure out where the hell are we sleeping tonight. And that comes with embarrassment. And I see my role in large part of how can I help prevent that, because I sure as hell wouldn't want to be in that position. So do you have family members? Do you have suitable housing other than this? If you had to move tonight, what would you do?
Either go to a hotel or sleep in my car.
Okay. So neither of those are a good outcome. So like what I'm seeing is we need to find a way for you to stay in the home as long as possible until we can get some income, and then we can get you back on your feet and get you into a rental property. Are you willing to live in a rental for a while?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a few options here. Are you familiar with, do you know, if I say short sale, do you know what that means?
No, I don't.
So a short sale is simply the bank agreeing to take an amount short of what you owe on their home. So how much is what's your balance, the remaining balance on your mortgage? And if they've sent you a statement with penalties and the actual payoff amount, do you know what that number is roughly right now?
No, I still owe 80, about 80 on the house.
Okay. And have you spoken to any other real estate professionals that have given you an indication of what the home is worth? Have you had an appraisal or a BPO or a realtor tell you what it's worth?
No, I just had a bunch of people calling me and texting me, telling me they wanted to
Okay.
buy the house.
What do you think it's worth? If you said, all right, I'm okay selling the house, what do you think it's worth today?
I honestly hadn't really thought about it, but I've seen, houses nearby from neighbors, fixing up their houses and moving. Last one I seen, it went for about 150, 160.
Okay. So there's a good chance you have equity. We could be talking about $80,000 in cash to better your situation.
That would be helpful.
All right. Tell me about the condition of the property.
As I said, I'm a glazer. When I first got here, the place had nothing. It had nothing at all. I completely redid the patio. I had some contractor buddies of mine, and another buddy of mine that I've worked with is a civil engineer. So we completely redid the back patio. It was all dirt back there before I got here, but now it's a nice finished patio. I've got swinging patio glass doors for the back. There's 2 bathrooms. I've installed frameless glass showers, neo-angle glass showers in both of the bathrooms. The roof's okay. I know that doesn't need to get redone. The shingles are fine. The electric is good. It's not knob and tube or anything crazy. I'd say that by my standards, the house is in pretty good condition.
Okay. It sounds like it'll qualify for FHA, VA. Like we won't have problems getting financing on the home. It's not in terrible condition. It sounds like it's in great condition. And you've done the right things to actually build equity into it. So this is an easier conversation than if you said, Chad, I owe 150 and I think we could sell it for 130. So when was the last contact you had with the lender? The last letter you got or the last phone conversation you
About 4 months ago.
Okay. Do you know if they have scheduled an auction date for your home? Okay. So that's the first thing we need to look at. We need to look at the notice of default and actually see, is there an auction scheduled? If there is, that's going to tell us how short our fuse is. You're beyond the 90-day mark. So in the state of Virginia, you could be less than 30 days from the sheriff, from the courthouse steps and the sheriff knocking on your door. Now, I have a bit of an emergency button. If we need to, if that starts to happen, if we run out of time, I might need you to file bankruptcy. That doesn't mean you have to take it all the way through to a discharge, but it will absolutely put the brakes on this. So if I call you and say you need to file bankruptcy today, I need you to be mentally prepared, emotionally prepared for that, because that's the only way that with absolute certainty we can stop a sale in its tracks. So if you were in that situation and it's going to spill over into your home loan, your car loans, your other things, but you don't have to finish it. And our bankruptcy attorney can have that conversation with you about what that means. But if we've got days, that's sometimes a tactic we have to use. It's unlikely. I like to have a good strategy in place so we know I don't call you and just hit you out of the blue and blindside you with something like that. The other option is we could transition it like typically if there's not equity, we'll try to do a short sale and we can get that contract, we can get the short sale paperwork into a division of the bank that moves it out of their special assets division and over to a distressed assets division, and it stops the clock on all that stuff. So there's ways that we can intervene in that process. Ideally, in this market condition with your home in great condition and such low inventory levels, I don't think we're going to have to use those kind of contingency plans. I think our primary strategy is beautiful photography, really good marketing, a conventional listing. We'll price aggressively low to really get attention, and we'll call for offers and sit for 7 days and wait and let them sweat and continue to bid themselves up. So we'll maximize every bit of equity we can get out of it. We'll pick the best one, and then we'll know we've got about $80,000 to find you a more suitable, an alternative living. We've got to verify all this and make sure that's right. But just based on what I know about your situation right now, I think you're going to be okay, man. Like, I think in the next 30 days, we can get you a closing. I know that it's not the outcome you really want. It's not keeping you in your home. Now, if you had a way to say, Chad, listen, I've got this lump sum of money coming, or I know that I'm going to get this contract at work. There is one more alternative, like either me or some of the investors I work with, we can actually extend a bridge loan to you, like mezzanine financing, to help you get across this. So it would be a short-term loan, and it's a higher interest rate because it's very risky, because we would be taking a second position on the deed. But I have done that before too, where I've had myself or other investors step in and create a bridge. For example, if you had a life insurance plan with a cash value that you could cash in, then I would basically be comfortable using that as collateral. If you made me the beneficiary of that on the promissory note, and then we would go 12 months and then you would pay me back whatever that was. So just like hypothetically, if you were $10,000 in payments, all the missed payments, then I would advance you $10,000 on a promissory note. That promissory note your obligation would be to make me the beneficiary on that life insurance policy. So there's creative things like that we can do to create bridge loans, but it requires you to have a solution for that income problem. So is there anything like that we haven't talked about, that where we might be able to just bridge you and leave you in the home, but I've got to have certainty that you have the ability to repay? Is there anything you can think of, any help or any ways you could make money, any assets you can sell, life insurance policies, anything like that, so we could have a solution for you to stay where you are?
No, I don't really have any assets or anything like that, unfortunately.
Okay, that's okay. As I said, there is a strategy that will work. The good news is you're in a far better position than most. I know it really sucks to move, especially after you've done all that work to the home, but without having you're losing equity by the day. As the penalties rack up, we owe the bank more and more. So the faster we can do this, the better off your family will be in finding your next living situation. So what I would like to do is, it's early today. I'm willing to be over there this evening if you would like to meet. But what I do want to make sure that everyone who's affected by this decision can be present for the conversation. So a lot of times we'll sit down with the entire family, even young children, because I like for them to be able to ask me as a kind of a third party. Sometimes it's helpful for the parents if the real estate professional answers the hard questions, and we may have to play a little bit of good cop, bad cop, right? So this is less stressful on your family when you can say, that's what Chad said we have to do. So then in the child's eyes, you're not taking away their bedroom. You're not taking them out of the school system. So if it's okay with you, I would like for your whole family to be present when we meet and have the conversation, because everyone will be affected. And I don't mind absorbing that. If they want to blame me, that's just another way for me to help you. So when could we have everybody together in one room for that conversation?
We can do it tonight.
Okay. How about 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock is perfect. That's dinner time.
Okay. In the meantime, what I'm going to do is dig in and do some research on the notice of default that you've received, if there is a sale date. And also, if you could help me by, you've gave me a good overview of what the condition of the home, but if I could ask you a few more questions and get a little more specific about it, then I'll be able to do better homework. So when I get there, I'll be able to tell you, here's where I'll place you in the marketplace. And to sell this in a week, we should be around this price. So then we'll dig in a little closer. So what I'm going to do is, quite frankly, a bit of a deeper dive than even an appraiser would go. And I'll have a market absorption analysis showing you what you could expect, how quickly you could expect to sell in each of the price ranges. So have you got just another 15 minutes to ask, just to talk about the house? I know this has been mainly a people conversation. I told you it was going to be different, but now it needs to be a house conversation, because I think I see the way we're going to get you out.
Yeah, I've got 15 minutes.
And we'll break there. You guys don't need me to hear me interview him about a house. So what I did there, I was trying to make you comfortable and let you know that you weren't the only one. I was trying to let you come to your own conclusion. We found out you had equity, and then that determined the strategy. You're just a conventional sale, and we've got to have some contingency plans in there in case the bank pulls a fast one and it goes to the courthouse steps. We got to be able to stop that. All of that stuff is stuff that I've done in real life. You can do bridge loans, you can file bankruptcies and just not take them all the way through. You can initiate short sales with an investor offer. You can stop foreclosure in its tracks in a matter of hours. But you'll notice in that conversation, I was emotionally preparing them for those things. Like, are you willing to share personal information with me? When the questions get too sensitive, will you be honest and transparent with me? And those things all build trust. And they're just little things that I learned as I picked up over time. But using this approach, I got every single notice of default that would engage with me turned into a deal. Like, it's, you didn't hit me with any objections, but they typically don't either.
I couldn't. I wanted to.
Yeah. So it's and if you guys, it may be painful for everyone listening to this. Damn, would he just get to the damn point? But that is the point. Slow down. This is a people conversation. Yeah, you get paid to sell houses or buy houses, but when you realize this is a people conversation, the house is the tail end. Like, I talk about houses after I've gotten trust and an action, like, so that the person has taken action and said, yes, please come to my home and sit in front of my kids and say this. Okay, now let's talk about the house, because before then the house doesn't freaking matter. It's the people that matter. So that's how I've always approached it. I use this in basically every list. Like, I mean, you guys probably see a lot of similarities how I approach probate, but that's how I handle all of the distressed real estate situations.
That was easily hands down the best. I just can't believe. I'm speechless.
Well, I'm glad you got value from it, man.
Thanks as always, man. Okay, I'll get off the mic.
All right. Well, guys, listen, I'm going to jump. This was, as always, fun conversations. Hope you guys got a ton from it. I see a lot of new names here we didn't hear from. So you guys, hopefully you got value from this. If it was your first call, work up the courage to introduce yourself and join us next week. But as always, guys, thanks for being part of the community and being an engaging, fun crowd. We'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Thanks, Chad. You too.